went from Continental to Siemens to Innomotics. From supply chain change in China to leading a 22 million transformation program to now heading procurement excellence. Very clear that could come out. That should come out. She knows what it means to go from corporate scale to PE-driven agility. She's here to share how Innomotics navigated the AI landscape, from the abundance of the Siemens world to carefully selected external solutions. Please welcome on stage Christine Reith.
Imagine this. You're coming home from work and you're hungry, you're tired, you're longing for dinner. You open the fridge is empty. No worries, there's the supermarket next door, you can go there, it has plenty of products, go there, buy whatever you want. The next day, you also come home from work. Oh, my microphone doesn't work, sorry. I didn't show you my back. This was not the plan. No worries. Now it's working? Yeah, perfect. So we were at the point, next day, we come home from work and you're hungry, you're tired. You open the fridge, empty again. But this time, the supermarket you were used to is closed. So you need to get into the car and go to supermarket, which is further away. You enter the supermarket and you find out, hey, there are the products I know, but there is more. And there's a big but. Because the products you are used to buy are so expensive and you cannot afford them anymore. So now you have to think about, what do I really need? What do I really want? And yeah, you cannot use this abundance anymore. You have to plan your dinners from now on. And this is what happened when Innomotics crossed the threshold of the change of control from Siemens. We were used to this abundance of Siemens. We were used to this vast supermarket of tools, services, software. Whatever we wanted to have, we could have it. And then, almost overnight, everything disappeared. But here comes the interesting part. Without this abundance, we gained clarity. We began to see what truly mattered, the technologies, the expertise, and everything that drives our performance in our business. And this is where our AI journey began. Not as a shiny technology project. It was more than that. It was a shift in mindset. We wanted to be focused. We wanted to simplify. We wanted to create sustainable and future-oriented solutions and decisions. And in the next 20 minutes, you will learn 4 things. You will learn how Innomotics created its AI journey step by step, what worked and what didn't work. And in the end, you will learn how do we really create, finally, added value. But before we dive into the journey, let me briefly explain who Innomotics is. Because I think every one of you knows Siemens, and a lot of people were asking me, Innomotics? I don't know that company. Innomotics is a global leader in electric motors, drives, and large gear units. And we are a young company with deep roots. We were founded in 2023 as a carve-out of Siemens. bringing together more than 150 years of expertise in motion technology. Today, we have around 15,000 colleagues who work in around 50 countries for us. And we have one shared purpose: to make industry more efficient, more intelligent, and more sustainable in the end. We, as procurement, manage 2 billion of spend. We have around 12,400 suppliers across around 75 communities, commodities, not communities, and we source from 80 countries all over the world. And this is done by a team of 245 people. At Innomotics, we truly believe that motion drives progress. And by combining industrial know-how and the modern technology of AI, we can really make a difference. Our AI journey unfolded in 5 phases, beginning with the change of control. We really stepped out of this large corporate ecosystem, out of this abundance. And when we became independent, there was no big corporate community or infrastructure behind us anymore. It was gone. No full set of tools, systems, software, whatever. We found ourselves in that new reality. On the one hand, freedom from the large corporate structures, but also the responsibility to create our own processes and systems. The supermarket doors were closed, and we had to decide what really mattered. With the COC in 2023, the journey truly began. We were highly motivated. We were like, yeah, we are free from Siemens, we can do whatever we want, and we will be the leader in 3 years of AI. So we were really thrilled to change the world. We inherited the structure of Siemens, but we also had the agility of a private equity-backed company. Nevertheless, procurement had now to take over tasks which had been done by corporate. For example, pooling commodities, or also strategy alignment. And this was on the one hand a major shift, but also a big opportunity. Our new focus was speed, efficiency, and measurable benefits. We became KPI-driven, decisive and pragmatic. And there was no try and error anymore. Every move counted. And as I said, at the same time, we had that freedom now. We could choose freely from the market. If I see a solution, I can implement that. Of course, not that easily, but it's possible. I don't have to go to a pre-selected catalog, more or less, and I don't have to go through endless approval loops anymore. At that time, 2023, I was leading a productivity program to decrease material costs, for example, and we managed to spend of around 700 million euros. And I immediately knew we need to integrate AI as part of our digitalization strategy, that this was core. So I initiated a project. And for this project, I hired a young guy from university, an AI expert. And I remember my boss saying, hey, he's not mature enough, he's just from university, he's not experienced enough. And I said, and this is what we need. We need a guy who is really into that, who is really thrilled, and who wants to change processes and implement AI. He was highly motivated, and so were we. But we learned very quickly that being motivated is not enough, because reality caught up very fast. First, the mindset. After the change of control, no one thought about digitalization or implementing AI solutions, because we were busy creating new systems and surviving more or less without this corporate strategy. And when I asked my team or other people, hey, what is AI? They said, isn't that this ChatGPT thing I heard of? And other ones said, yeah, I saw some movies where machines took over the world. This was AI at that moment. And honestly, at that point, even I didn't fully know what AI was. But I knew two things. First of all, it would change the way we work. And secondly, when we do not start now, we will be left behind. So we need to be prepared. Another challenge came up with strategy and processes. We did not have an AI strategy. We did not have a plan. There was the market being flooded by startups and solutions, and on the other hand, we didn't have a clue which solution to select. So where should we start? Which solution really adds value? Money was another issue. No one wanted to spend money on things which don't bring immediate value add after the COC. And we didn't have a dedicated AI budget. And then there was IT. And as mentioned before, they were not our friends, because they were busy setting up the systems and software. And when I approached them, they said, come in 3 years. All resources are booked. So we learned a painful truth. We learned that our processes were not ready for AI, because as we say, sorry to be so open, shit in, shit out. Our processes contained a lot of waste. And we also found out that bad data, will always lead to bad outcomes, no matter how good your algorithm is. It was really humbling. We realized that AI is not magic. It is really built on a solid basis. So we changed our approach. First of all, we started to create business cases to really get the management buy-in and to see, hey, there is a value add. And we stopped chasing for every new shiny tool. And we trained the people in the basics of AI, how to use that. I didn't want to make out of everyone a data scientist, but they should understand the basics because they are the ones who are going to use it. So we developed a small but realistic AI roadmap, focusing first on two things: data quality and process readiness. And then we could apply AI tools. We identified the biggest levers and which steps could be done without big development times, and where do we have the quick wins. And here my new AI expert was really a game changer, because he could do a lot of things on his own. He was motivated, he was creative, and he was practical. After this learning phase came focus. We chose two areas where we could create value fast and sustainable, and show the management that it's worth investing in AI. First, we decided to digitalize highly repetitive processes using tools like UiPath, which is a robotic process automation you surely know. For example, we took care of processing supplier order confirmations, which is a big headache in procurement usually. We took small steps, but measurable gains. Second, we focused on data quality. We built up a procurement data warehouse. So one big data warehouse, and in the first steps, we created dashboards based on the data warehouse because we wanted to make the data visible and also transparent, because you cannot manage something you cannot see or present. And for example, we implemented also smaller AI solutions to really help us getting the data better, like spend or contract management, for example. In short, we moved from trying everything to doing the right things with purpose. We stopped chasing innovation and started creating value. So how did we find the right AI solutions in this big market? One of the biggest lessons was we needed to know what we really need and not what we want. Because at Siemens, the answer was easy. It's, we want the best solution which covers every single scenario. At Animatics, we found out good enough and implemented is better than perfect but theoretical. It's not about the smartest system. It's about the right fit. And we had to learn to ask better questions and not buy bigger solutions. Today, our AI journey is no longer theoretical. It is alive in real projects, and I give you 4 examples. First of all, we have an internal Animatics chatbot for procurement-related support. For example, guidelines, contracts. We have a 360-degree supplier dashboard where you see all the data. And now we are looking for an AI-driven risk management. And we are also about to implement an AI tool to support more accurate forecasts. And finally, we are working with a really interesting company, and they have an agent, and they will take over, hopefully, all the operational tasks of our strategic suppliers. Each of this project brings us closer to our vision. AI as an intelligent assistant to enhance our decisions, not to replace us. So what were the lessons we learned? We have 2 perspectives, internally and externally. First of all, data quality matters, and you can use AI to improve your data quality. Don't start from the tail. Start where AI can bring really structure into it. Secondly, data storage is not for free. And be aware of AI limits. Be aware that the results need to be reproducible. Be aware that AI can hallucinate. And, last but not least, value first. Ask yourself, do I really need that? Or is this just a nice-to-have thing? And regarding companies, we really had a look at several companies, and if you just show me slides, no, I would really want to get into the solution. Prepare use cases and ask every single time the same use cases so that you can compare the solutions. How can they connect to your systems? And also have a look at their strategy, because their strategy needs to fit your strategy. Is it just a good solution for now, or is it future-oriented? We learned that AI does not replace strategic thinking, it sharpens it, finally. So, for us, AI has never been just about technology. It was more than that. It was about transformation, about redefining how procurement creates value. We moved from abundance to focus, from complexity to clarity, and from process to purpose. And in doing so, we discovered that the real power of AI is not replacing strategy. It's about redefining it. And this is not the end of the journey, but I'm very excited and I'm looking forward what is coming next. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine. Stay a second with us. Thank you very much for this amazing speech. Is there a question or a contribution out of the room? There is a hand. Maria. I think there's a microphone. Also, two on the table, so we'll love with her here.
Does that work?
And I'm going to take the other one. Perfect.
Thank you very much for this insightful journey. The question is as follows. Do you track or measure somehow the return of investment to implementation of AI?
Yes, we do, definitely. As I said, we are a KPI-driven company now, since we are private equity owned. So for every process, and also for that, we have really KPIs. Of course, it depends on the process itself. And then we have a target and measure against it. And we really track when we hit the threshold of investment and finally, profit. But I cannot say, it depends on the process. For example, order confirmation or all the operational things we measure in minutes, then of course it's transferred into money, and I can tell you we measure it, yes.
Thank you.
I don't seem to be satisfied with that answer.
It just, it provokes further questions how you measure it and money. And
then let's have a coffee, and I'm really happy to share that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Wonderful. Again, already creating connections. Thank you, Maria, for that question. Are there more questions in the room? I could see, there are many.
Willem van Meulen, ex-Haterstiel. So thank you very much for indeed this presentation. What I really liked about is at a certain moment in time that you created focus on what you're going to do. And that's my follow-up question is, if you create focus and you buy or you get a solution for something you really want, the risk, I think, is that you end up with a lot of different point solutions what you have. So what is your view on getting an integrated, I would say, digital strategy based on the focus that you now have?
We created pillars. For example, when I was talking about the 360-degree dashboard, we said we want to have one solution for that, because this dashboard covers a lot of things, and we are not only looking for a company who does one part of that. So we are looking about the solution for supplier data. On the other hand, when I talked about the operational tasks being taken away from the strategic suppliers, we also found a solution which covers not only one part, so we really work in that pillars. Of course, we will have more than one solution, but we said regarding one pillar, one solution. So this is our strategy so far. Did this answer your question?
Partly, because actually what you say is that you have different pillars, and for a pillar you choose a solution. But how do you connect the pillars then?
Well, actually, currently they say it's possible to connect everything, and honestly speaking, currently we don't know how it will proceed. We said we would start now, everyone promises you, hey, we can connect everything. And what we also found out is less is more. Because if you have everything in one dashboard, like not only supplier, but also operational data, it's too much, because someone has to look at the data finally and at the measures. And it's better to have less data and to have a better overview. We had one company who presented to us a risk report for every single supplier, which had 55 pages. No one will read that. So we start now with this. We know that this is not a perfect solution, but as I said, better implemented, 80%, than thinking about, okay, how can we do that perfectly? Because this was a problem at Siemens.
Thank you very much, Christine. I know there are more questions in the room. With respect of the time, I would recommend grab yourself, Christine, in the break as soon as you...